Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome to Goldwing Docs. Today we're going to be talking about auxiliary electric panels to add additional circuits to your bike. Coming up next. I've had a few people ask me this over the years to cover what this is on my bike, but I don't know what it is. The last month or so I've had 2 or 3 people ask me to do a video on this, so I thought I would comply and tell you about the auxiliary electric panel. So the one I have is from Electrical Connection. The specific one that's in my bike is not made anymore, but they do have other ones similar to it. I'll put links to them in the description below. What is an auxiliary panel? Well, if you have a Goldwing, you know we love putting electronic crap all over it. I've got my cameras, I got the tire monitoring system, a phone, lights and radios and all kinds of stuff all over. All that stuff has to be powered by something. The Goldwing has an accessory terminal on the fuse box. Even I know the 1100s had it, I think the 1000s had it as well. And that's because Honda knew that we wanted to hook crap up to our motorcycle, so they gave us a facility to do that. However, that's only one terminal and it's only rated for, I believe, 5 amps or 10 amps. It's not much. So what people end up doing is hooking up everything to the battery, and so you got that one battery post on there and it's got like 16 ring terminals on it and fuses going out every which way, inline fuses, and it's a mess. So let's have a look and see what this actually does and how it works and how I use it. What are we talking about exactly? Well, it lives right next to the battery. On the 1500, that's on the right side, so I'm going to pull off this side panel here. And yes, I've got straps that are mounted on my panel here that keep my panel from flying away. Before everybody starts asking in the comment section below, because every time I take this panel off, I get tons of questions. Where'd you get those straps? Where can I get those straps? I've already answered that question and I actually created a video for it. If I'll put a link into it below, you'll see it called the #1 most asked question, because definitely that is the #1 most asked question I get. So here is my power panel right here. And as you can see, it has a thick wire. And we'll zoom this in so we can see it better. Now I've got a thick wire that comes off the positive terminal of my battery and then to this fuse right here, which is a 30 amp fuse. Now you want to size that fuse for whatever loads you're actually running on your circuits here. But for my uses, it's a 30 amp fuse. I do have a few other things running on here. This is my battery tender here. And this is a wire that runs to my camera that keeps it active even when the bike is turned off, so that if somebody were to bump into my camera or bump into my bike, it records what is going on. So let's have a look at the panel itself here. You can see the wire feeds into this terminal block here, or this socket here, into this relay. Now the electrical connection relay that this came with was crap. I noticed that when this thing was installed, the voltage that was coming out of it was lower than what the battery was. So I would measure 13.8 volts when the engine was running, and coming out of here, as soon as I pulled any kind of load in it, the voltage was dropping down to 12.6. And it turned out the problem was the junk piece of crap relay that was included with this thing. So I took that, threw it away, and then I went and bought this decent 30 amp relay here. You can get a 40 amp as well, but I bought that relay, put it in here, replaced it, and that fixed that problem. There is also a ground wire that needs to be hooked up so that the relay itself can operate. And we'll get to the reason for the relay in a minute. And there's also a third wire here, which again, I'll get to in a minute. And then lastly, there is this blue wire right here, which I will also get to in just a moment. Up underneath this seat where you can't see, I don't know if I can feel it up here, no. I actually have a terminal strip that kind of looks like this, except they're all connected together, and that's just ground. So this feeds power out. So this is your positive. It goes out to the various different places in the bike, and then it comes back to a ground. And the reason I have all the grounds coming together in one place is to try to prevent ground loops, which is what can cause noise on your radio and CB and that sort of thing. And then that strip of grounds runs directly into the negative terminal on my battery, which is up there. But there is a up where you can't see it, that ground strip. Okay, so what does this do? Basically, it's a switched set of circuits that run throughout the bike. And if I look on my lid here, I actually wrote what the different circuits are. So you can see I've got the first fuse runs my horns. Now I actually have air horns on my bike, which require a lot of current to run properly. And if they don't get enough current, they're not very loud. So for that reason, I dedicated a circuit on here just for my air horns. And that's that first circuit right there, which I have set up as 20 amps. The next, I have my auxiliary lights, 10 amps. They used to be incandescent halogen, which required 10 amps of current. Now they're LED, they don't require anywhere near that, but I've still got 10 amps there if I need it. My GPS, charger, TPMS, so basically all my electronics. The GPS is not used anymore because I don't have it, but I do have a phone charger up there. In fact, I've got a couple phone chargers. My tire pressure monitoring system, I've got a 12 volt auxiliary outlet. So all those things together hardly draw anything at all. So I've got a 5 amp fuse in there. Now my bike PC, if you don't know what that is, I'll put a link to that in the description below. And the heated clothing that I have. I've got gloves and jacket and so on. 10 amps for that. Trailer lights, I've got a trailer isolator with its own circuit just for the trailer lights, and that is 10 amps. HID headlights, I don't have HID headlights on here anymore. I've got LED. They don't need anywhere near 10 amps, but again, I still got that on there in case I ever need that current. Well, that's not really the reason because I'm lazy and never changed it, and I obviously didn't change the label either. But so that you can see these fuses are for those auxiliary circuits. Now, obviously, I don't want these things on all the time. I don't want my headlights on all the time. I don't want the horn on all the time. So these have to be switched. But I'm pulling 30 amps. I can't pull 30 amps through the ignition switch. That would burn that circuit out. That's where this blue wire comes into play. So this blue wire right here actually runs up into a circuit that is switched from the ignition switch. So when I turn the bike on with the key switch, it energizes this blue wire, which runs down here, energizes the coil on the relay, and from there to ground. So that turns this relay on. And when that relay gets turned on, this wire from the battery goes through this fuse, through this thick wire, through the relay, and then powers this. So all these fuses come alive when the ignition gets turned on. And then each of these circuits here, so you can see this fuse here powers this circuit here, and that wire comes out and runs up. And I've got these, we call these wire looms here, these plastic wire looms, and those wires run up through those wire looms. And the reason for that is because these wires can chafe. They're not factory wires. They're not inside the original factory looms that are wrapped with tape and protected. So if you have just bare wires like this running throughout your bike, and they're touching something that's vibrating, it can actually chafe through and short them out. Now that's not the end of the world, because if it does short out, it's just going to blow the fuse, which is obviously a problem, but at least the fuse blew to protect the circuit, and now you have to go find that chafed wire. But if you use these plastic looms, and I'll put a link to these in the description below, they're really useful. You not only does it make it a neater installation, and it's easier to feed them through, but it protects those wires so they don't get chafed. So you can see right there, the wires are inside the loom, and that way they're protected, and that hard plastic loom is then just run up, and it doesn't matter if that gets vibrated on or anything of that sort. Now you see one other wire right here, and that is a red wire. And this wire is, because this relay is a SPDT, single pole double throw. So it has a normally open and normally closed connection. This fuse is connected to the normally open. When you power on the relay, the normally open closes, this powers up. This is the opposite. This has power when the motorcycle is off. And when you start the motorcycle, when you turn the motorcycle on, this goes away. So if you were to have, for instance, maybe an alarm system or something you wanted to be powered only when the bike is turned off, you can actually plug it into here and it will be powered. Now you do need to fuse this. There's no fuse on this other than this 30 amp fuse, which is far too big for this tiny little wire. So you want to put a fuse on this if you're going to use it, but then you can run this to anything that you want to have power when the bike is actually turned off. And then when you turn the bike on, this shuts off. So it would shut off your alarm system because you put the key in and started it. And all this comes on instead. That's it. That's the whole electrical panel right there. And like I said, this one's no longer made, but there are many out there that are very similar to this that work the same way. And you can find them on Amazon or on Motorcycle Part. I'm sure I can find quite a few that I'll put links to in the description below. Well, that's it. I hope that was of some use to you. If you like what you saw, please click like, subscribe, click that little bell. That way you get notified whenever we post one of these videos, and it really helps us out when you do that. If you have any questions, comments, ideas, corrections, please post them in the comments section below. And of course, don't forget to check out the Goldwing Docs website. 96,000 members on there now. Lots and lots of friendly people. Goldwing members just like you, friendly people just waiting to say hi, lend a helping hand. Thanks for watching. Now I have to remember which way this goes in. I think it goes in this way. I think. Maybe not. Let me feel the terminals. It goes in this way. There we go.